Thought I'd show you something here. This is a solar food dehydrator I built out of scrap lumber. I wanted to test out the thought of making my own jerky and drying my own vegetables and stuff, and I didn't want to put any money into it, really, just as an experiment, and I don't have a lot of extra money anyway, to be honest with you, but I do scrounge up a lot of used lumber over the course of the summer. So what I did was I gathered up a bunch of it and basically just hammered out a very simple box frame with a sloping lid. There's nothing scientific about it at all. Just whatever pieces I could make go where. You'll notice that the angle on the lid is at a certain degree. Well, I didn't plan that at all. That's just the shape of the pieces that I brought in. They were obviously used for part of a roof of a cabin or something. So that's just the scrap lumber from the pitch, I guess. I don't know. But it seemed to be a pretty good angle, so I just used that to base the entire box off of. And like I said, this is all scrap lumber, nothing new in it. Even the window is an old double pane window frame, and one of the panes is broken, but that's okay. I just need the one pane anyway. So I built a very simple box and reinforced it just enough to keep it sturdy, relatively sturdy anyway. And I drilled holes in the back on the top for convection, and on the other side you'll see I have holes near the bottom. I put screen in there to keep the critters out, and it's a very simple lid. I didn't put hinge on it or anything like that. I figured, why? Inside you'll see there's just a little bit of construction clutter in there, but I used a piece of, oops, sorry about my camera strap there. You'll see I took a piece of dark metal roofing to use as a reflector. Now, they say take something and paint it black. Well, I figured dark brown's good enough, and it seems to be fine. On a sunny day, this thing will reach about interior temperature of 110 degrees or so, and I scavenge up every refrigerator rack, every oven rack that I can find to use for smokers and stuff like that. So I threw a couple of those in there. Like I said, I didn't put a lot of forethought into the size of the racks or anything like that, so I'll probably modify it a little bit so I got more shelf space in there. But I bought a cheap piece of meat, the cheapest piece of meat I could find. I think it was an old oh god, I don't even know. It was one of those reduced for quick sale things, and as you can see, there's a bit of fat. I trimmed a lot of the fat off. Oop, I'm getting an echo from talking in there. You can see there is a bit of fat on the meat. That I trimmed out most of it, but in the drying process, obviously, it came back out. But that's okay. I was only looking to experiment on the efficiency of the dehydrator, not the quality of the jerky. But I just soaked this in some teriyaki sauce overnight, and it's not quite done, but it'll turn out okay as an experiment. We had good sun yesterday, and it got almost all the way done in the course of the day. But this morning, it's supposed to be sunny out, and as you can see, the sun is not there. It should be right over there, but it's not. Well, I mean, it is, but it's not. Anyway, so that is my experiment so far with dehydrating food. When we get another day, I'm going to run another test batch, and I think I'm going to buy a tomato as well and slice up a tomato and throw in here, and just see how that works, because I'd like to do more than jerky, obviously. To get some foodstuffs ready for winter, and also for hiking and hunting and such like that. But this jerky's almost done. If we could get one more day of sun, it would be done for sure. I know it would. It's almost done now, but not quite. So I'm just going to let it sit in here, and maybe the sun will come out today while I'm at work, and it'll finish her off, and maybe find some different racks. And I'm going to have to clean this up because it's got teriyaki and dirt and all sorts of stuff on it. But anyway, that's the experiment. If you think you want to build a dehydrator, let me tell you, don't let even not having any money stop you, because the only money I have into this is a little bit of money for some screws, just to hold the dang thing together. And about 20 minutes a time, 20 minutes to a half hour a time, and that's just most of that was just looking for the proper pieces of wood to cut up. But that's it in a nutshell, and it seems to work really well. I'm pretty pleased with the results just in one day. And with that, I'll let you guys go to build your own food dehydrator. Like I said, I read a lot of stuff on the internet and researched it, and boy, I saw some really elaborate designs, and I couldn't figure out why the fancy ones were going to be more efficient than the simple ones. So I built a simple one, and it seems to work pretty dang good. I'll take the Jerky out here today and give it a test run, and I think I'll wait for payday and buy a better chunk of meat and give it another try. And also I'll show you the what happens with the tomato. That'll be interesting to see too. But anyway, if you're homesteading on a dime like I am, you don't have a lot of money, you start scavenging lumber off of any old construction site that they want cleaned up, and anywhere you can find it. Windows, don't turn anything like that down. If someone says, I got this old window, and you say, well, the frame's all rotten, well, if the glass is good, take it. You don't let anything go to waste. And why buy it if it's free? So make use for it, recycle that stuff and keep it running. So let's have some fun with dehydrating food, shall we? Now let's try this again. Let me get the camera set up here. This is the day after. Yesterday we had clouds. Today we also have clouds, but a little more sun. I checked this throughout the day yesterday, and it got a little warm in there, but not enough to really do anything. You can see these are not great cuts of meat, and when I'm going to call this done, I think I've been sampling it throughout the day yesterday, and it appears to be done. And I think I'm going to call that done if you can see that. So the experiment was a success. I'm feeling that 8 to 10 hours of really good strong daylight is enough to make jerky. Obviously, this was not designed to be used with beef. It was designed to be used with moose primarily, and caribou and stuff like that. But just to show you that just some scraps can actually produce some results as far as preserving meat and stuff like that. Like I said, it took got about 8 hours of full sunlight the first day, and yesterday it got 8 hours of cloud cover, and that seemed to actually do it. So maybe it doesn't require even full sunlight. I'm throwing little bits to my dog. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this inside and call it good, even though it's not good meat, obviously. I'm going to go to the store today and buy some tomatoes, or a tomato, and see what it will do with produce. So there you have it. I'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll carry on with preserving food via the sun 101. Well, here we are back at our experimental food dehydrator. Now, I got jerky out of it the other day. It took one full day of good sunlight to make the jerky. Really, I took it over 2 days, because one day was cloudy and I started late on the first day. So I'm thinking a good long day of sun will make a batch of jerky. Of course, it's going to vary a little bit, of course, but it came out pretty good for just an experiment. So today, since we have good sun today, it was raining the last 3 days, I decided to buy a tomato, and I sliced it up, and I want to see if I can dry these successfully in the food dehydrator via the power of the sun. And I did get a little bit kind of a late start today as well, but I didn't think about it till the last minute. So we're just going to set them bad boys on there and see what the sun will do over the course of the day. And of course, tomorrow's another day. If it's sunny out, we'll just continue with the experiment. I'll note the time and and just get this ball rolling, and we'll see what happens. And if we can do this successfully, we'll try apples and stuff next. I don't see why any of that stuff won't work. It's just I've never done it before. But the jerky came out well, and we'll just continue experimenting until we actually know what we're doing. And we'll put our glass back on top and let the sun do its magic. See you in a bit. It's presently 5 in the afternoon. We started this little operation of trying to dehydrate this tomato at noon. So it's been 5 hours, and you can see fairly impressive results. I think, anyway. I'm not an expert, obviously, but there's definitely drying taking place. I think this will probably be a 2-day operation, but as you can see, it's already getting leathery, and I think you can see that. And kind of psyched about this little experiment. I'm going to be acquiring more old, used, broken window panes that no longer have a life or a purpose, and we're just going to start dehydrating a lot of meats and vegetables and stuff for winter use. I don't know if I'll get them built this year. It's already probably the 5th day of August now, and it's going to be 6.5, 7 weeks before I'll be back up at the homestead. The work season will be over, so I'm probably not going to do anything other than collect materials this year, and they'll all be different, of course, because I don't know how big the window panes are. That was a determining factor in how big the dryer was, obviously. But I don't care the sizes as long as they get the job done. Anyway, we'll come back tomorrow and check it out again. You'll see I made normally what I do is I swivel this thing around to face the sun as the sun moves across the sky, just to make sure it's getting good direct light. You'll see there's a big piece of aluminum material that was in the cabin that I'm living in. It was serving no purpose, so I used it this afternoon as basically a lazy Susan, because there's so much gravel here that swinging that box around was kind of a pain in the arse. So I put it on the aluminum, and it swivels much easier. Casters would be nice, but I don't really think those are practical either in this terrain. So I think either just a piece of aluminum or a big piece of plywood would be all that I would really need, and just to make sure I got everything facing the right direction. But we'll check back on this tomorrow and see how many days it takes to dry a tomato. Let's take a look at our dehydrated tomato here. It is a little after noon. The following day it was cloudy out this morning a little bit, and it finally cleared up. Had a little bit of rain, but everything's back to normal. And as you can see, we have some significant drying out going on. I don't know how much longer it will take. It's still fairly moist, but obviously a lot different than what they were the other day. So I'm just going to let these go the rest of the day and then give them a check back here. This evening, if I keep rotating this dehydrator with the sun, it should get another 6 or 7 hours of drying time in. Obviously there's a lot more moisture in a tomato than there is the meat, but it's looking good, looking very promising, and I'm pretty psyched about the whole situation. Good experiment to run, and I will definitely be building more of these as soon as I can dredge up the lumber and the window frames. Well, it's the same day. Let me get over here. 2 in the afternoon. A couple hours since I shot that last clip, and just been moving this around to keep it in the sun. Now, take a look at this. that looks pretty dang dry, don't it? A little moist, you know, around the skin of the tomato, but I'm guessing, since I was not here this morning, and I'm normally working this time of year, so I'm gone early, I'm guessing that the sun got up above the birch trees just to the east of here, about 10 o'clock. So let's figure we got between 9 and 10 hours, if you count the first day of direct sunlight and today, between 9 and 10 hours to get these to this state. I'm going to let them go the rest of the day and see what they turn out like, because they still are a little bit moist, and I'm sure they would still spoil. But it's just significant dehydrating in 10 hours. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to put the lid back on, put the glass back on, and check back in a few more hours. Whoop! Where's the dehydrator? And there we have it. That's probably the most difficult thing I would ever have to dehydrate, would be a tomato, I would imagine. But it's definitely doable in Alaska with all the sunlight during the summer months, and I'm going to be making more of these for sure and putting them to use. I won't be able to do anything if I get a moose for making jerky this year, so I'll have to freeze it and start in the spring. But it's a step. Homesteading on a dime. Well, this is going to be the last segment. I've got what I consider the grand slam of dehydrating experiments. I got tomatoes, bell pepper, onion, and jalapeno. And I'm just going to throw these in here and let them go for a few days, and this is going to be my final test on how well this dehydrator works. So let me get this stuff in here. It's getting kind of late in the day. It's about 2:45. I should have started this a lot earlier, but it was overcast and I had projects to do. So let's just go ahead and throw these buggers on here, and in a couple days we'll just take a peek every now and then and see what happens. Well, there we go. Not much of a display, but let's just see what happens. I have a feeling that I may have to work out a different rack system with the jalapenos. I know they're going to obviously shrink in size, and I may have to come up with a different material. Sorry about my dog. She's just fixated on something underneath the cabin. But there we have it. I'm going to let those go and turn this thing as the sun turns, as it starts to go, well, not down exactly, but around. And then tomorrow morning I'll reposition it and we'll try to get as much sunlight as we can for however many hours the sun is out. And we'll see how long this takes. I know the tomatoes take 2 days of good sun, but it's a learning experience for me, and I'll just see how well I can do this so I don't have to rely on that store-bought stuff, because I don't care for it. I want man-sized hunks of onion when I have to rehydrate them. You know, not those little bitty chips. I hate those things. But anyway, wish me luck, and we'll check back later. Well, let's take a peek. I'm going to say that these guys have had approximately 12 hours of sun at this point, with actually about 3 hours and then 9 hours with a 2-day break of rain in between. And, I'm going to say that the tomatoes are about as crispy as they're going to get. They're not the wildest looking things, are they? But see how the red pepper, the bell pepper looks. That's probably ready, but I'm going to leave it in there just to be sure for a while. I know the tomato is done, and so is the jalapeno. That looks pretty dang done. Pretty rock solid. The onion, which I thought the onion would dehydrate faster than the tomato, but it doesn't look like it has. It's still pretty moist. I'm not sure why that is, but figuring about 12 hours of actual sunlight. We got a little bit of cloud cover here this afternoon, but still good enough to keep us going. So I'm going to take the tomato and the jalapeno out of there, leave the bell pepper, and we'll just keep tabs on it and see what it's doing. Now the last thing I'm going to do is, once the onion is done, is I'm going to do a reconstitution test, if that's what you call it. Reconstituting is the tomato to see what they look like. And I have actually different tomatoes that I'm going to be using for that I have tried previously. So let's let these set a little bit longer. I will get them here in a little bit, take them in the house, and call her good. Okay, well here you can see your standard ordinary Tupperware container with residue in it. Anyway, in this little thermos thingy, it's not soup. It's dehydrated tomato. Just throw them in there in little crispers. Now throw them in there. Along with a few chunks of the jalapeno. We're going to do some multiple reconstituting. Over here I have a glass of water. It's water, I promise. Just going to throw that in there. That ought to be more than enough. Put the lid on to keep the critters out. And we'll check that tomorrow and see how they look. Let's take a look here. It's only been a couple hours, not the next day. There's no reason they would have to soak that long, you wouldn't think, right? There's our little Tupperware container. And there is our little bit faded but very much rehydrated tomato. And there is a very rehydrated jalapeno pepper. Look at that. So I think if I were to dry up a bunch of these and hot! Throw them in my soups and stews. Yep, hot. It works. Didn't lose any of its potency. Anyway, gang, that's it. The food rehydrates as well as it dries, which is good to know. You don't want crunchy soup. So, there we go. We have learned another valuable food preservation skill. And we don't even know what we're doing. Anyway, you guys have a good evening, and I'm going to go start on another project.